Hello again, YouTube. We're now in part 2, and in this one I'm going to first start off by double checking the size of the eye here and making sure that I have the smallest of details in correct proportion. I don't want to just take for granted that my eyes are working really sharp, that I've done a good job guesstimating the distances between the lines on the grid there and then on the lines that are on my drawing paper. I have to make sure, especially with prominent areas like the eyes, that I have got it down exact, and if not, I need to make minor adjustments. And that's what I'm going to do here in the beginning before I start to draw this eye. I want them to be perfect. There's no rush. You just take your time and make sure every little detail is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this part up now that I have explained it, and we'll go right into the drawing from here. Okay, well, I think I've got the eyes pretty well zeroed in now, and feeling pretty confident I can get right into the drawing and shading part, which is, of course, the fun part. And so I'm going to start here with the eyebrows, and using a light, extra hard charcoal pencil. You can see it says 2HX hard, EX hard. And I'm just going to use that because I can get some really fine dark lines with that. And I'm just going to start drawing this puppy in, and I'll double check the distances and so forth somewhere along the line here. But I just want to really get this shape in, start to really note where the darkest area of this eyebrow is and get those in, and just get as close as I can to draw this initially, and then of course I'll go back and make any adjustments later on. Paper itself glides through the air with the greatest of ease, and so it keeps my hand off the drawing paper, and I think it's pretty cool to have. It just makes things easier than taping paper underneath my hand and stuff, which I didn't like doing that too much. It left a residue from the duct tape on my hand. And then, of course, paper is a blender as well, so you can also end up blending some of your drawing when you're sliding your hand across. So that is something I always have to watch out for. So I like it being elevated, but not too high off the paper. And this seems to be just right for me. I can get in there, do the details, and not touch the paper one iota. So I'm going in with this 4H here just to get some of the details. I'm doing a lot of it here in the area that's going to be very dark anyway, so most of it will not show up. So it just, when I start to go in and blend and stuff, I'll be able to see the crease lines and so forth of the eye. So at this point now, because it's very, very long, and I don't want to put you all to sleep with a very long thing, I'm going to speed this part up as well. Okay, now the time to do some little shading here for the skin, and I'm going to use graphite powder, that's graphite and not charcoal powder, on a Q-tip, or you can call it a ear cotton bud or whatever. And I'm just going to start around the eye here, just start blending it in. And I know that I won't get the tone that I need right off, because one of the most difficult things is to get the tone correct when you don't have anything next door to it, right next to it, to compare it with. Right now the paper is pretty white. It's not white, but it's about as white as the paper I have. And this tone that I'm putting on, of course, is going to look quite dark on compared to the white of the squares next to it. And so when you look at the reference photo, you might think, well, around the eye is a lot brighter and whiter than what Rix is doing on his drawing. But in reality, when I start to draw in the hair and other nearby features, you're going to start seeing that it's not as dark as you think it is, especially when I start to draw the other side of the face where it's more in shade and darkness. When you start making the comparison, what I'm doing here is going to be relatively light. But even with that said, I'm still going to lighten some areas of it in respects to, what I've already done. In other words, if you look at his right eye, which is left to us, you'll notice that underneath the eye, there's a dark spot area and a light spot. Well, I'll lighten up the light side of it in respects to the dark side of it based on the darkness of the tone that I have currently laid down. But later on, I'm going to have to make adjustments as more and more elements are drawn on the paper, and I start to realize, okay, I'm going to need to get a little darker here, I'm going to need to get a little lighter there. But you have to start somewhere. So don't be afraid to just get in there, start shading the face, and then you can just start lightening things up as you go, or adding darkness as you go. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing here. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this video here, and I'm just kind of focusing on, adding some darkness within the eye right now, and using my paper blending stump here. I do a lot of drawing with the stump. You'd be amazed at how far you can go with just what's on the stump itself, and you can get a lot of control as to how dark or light you want your blends, your tones to be. So I tend to use this a lot, and I'm just going to kind of get in there and mark some of the dark areas, and I'm going to have to go back over this again, and I'll do that in the next video. So right now this is basically the initial, you might say, my initial draw or shading. And then I will refine and refine and refine before I decide to move on. I want to move away from any kind of a cartoonish or drawing look, and I want to get much closer to realism. And in order to achieve that, I will have to layer, and that is something that everyone should keep a note of, is that you just need to keep going over areas, and I don't mean wearing areas out. That's a mistake many new artists will make. But to just refine, look at your reference constantly, make changes, try to replicate exactly what you see, lighten areas that need lightening, darken areas that need darkening, and then you will start to just see the effect that you're looking for more and more start to show. And when you're satisfied, then you can start moving on away from your starting point here. In my case, it's always this eye, and then you go from there out, and you have a reference now, and everything's going to be referencing pretty much the tone of the eye you started with. So if you hurry with your start of your drawing and you move on to other areas because you get impatient or whatever the case may be, and you didn't get it to where you want it to go, you will find often that the rest of your drawing is going to pretty much meet that level that you settled on. So I desire to make this as realistic as possible. In other words, look as much like the reference photo as possible. And so although I will not achieve that in part 2 here, in part 3 of the video, when that comes out, you will see that I will just be working on this area and refining it until I get it to exactly where I want it. And at that point, I will then start to spread out and start drawing the rest of the face, now that I have set a template or set my own internal reference. That's what I've done in this drawing here, my shading work. It has set the tone for the rest of the photo. I hope that makes sense. It's just when you first start out, things does look a little more cartoonish, and a lot of drawings will end up cartoonish if you just settle. So if you're working on realism, don't be in a hurry. Get that 1 square or 2 squares like I have here. Get that about as perfect as you can to where you're really, really happy with it. And I'm going to show you another tip or trick in part 3. So make sure that you subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you will be alerted when the next one comes out, assuming, of course, that this has not been done like many months ago and it's already out. But of course, subscribe anyway. It really does help my channel to grow in the YouTube sphere. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up to end it. And I want to thank you very much for watching my drawing series, and catch you next time.